Okay.
Good morning, everyone. We're so excited to welcome Leopold Gout to our speaker series this morning. Thank you so much again for being here. We're going to start, as we always do, with a brief meditation. And one of our most recent graduates, who you just met in the green room, will lead us in that. And then Ivan will introduce our speaker and we'll get started.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Thanks, Andrea. What an honor. We just got out of the green room with a world-recognized filmmaker and artist, storyteller, and he is muy amable and ready to go. So I will try not to linger too long on my introduction. You all know who Leopoldo Gout is. You've done the research. And what a spectacular conclusion to an amazing speaker series. I mean, I've noticed in the last few days that the shadows are deepening and the evenings are growing cool. And with that, I'm reminded, and I'm reminding all of us today that change is always at hand. In the midst of all this sorrow and struggle we had in Spanish Harlem, wonderful people like Devin and Amy and Rupert appeared, and this summer has been made quite magical by their array of friends. And now to anchor our splendid all-world distance relay, Leopoldo Gout. All of our speakers have been masters of their own chosen way, some in film, some in fashion, sport, writing, directing, producing, business. And the song lines throughout each of their lives are gratitude, grace, and a choice to be uncomfortable with the comfortable. Our guest this morning walks this same path with those same virtues and in his own very special way. In his highly acclaimed novel, Genius, the Game, the terminal manifesto asserts, learning is about breaking down walls. Leopoldo Gout is about breaking down walls. And by the way, Leopoldo, if I may call you Leopoldo, I'm only halfway through the novel, so no spoilers, please, this morning in your presentation. But what a beautiful novel of friendship between Rex and Tunde and Kai, a story of resilience and imagination wrapped in new technology and connection across the world through the internet. Our speaker is a filmmaker, writer, visual artist, so he's mastered an array of areas of challenge, and he is straight up out of the DF. He is from Mexico City. Raised by a single mother in Mexico, he became a citizen of the world who now lives in New York City, but he also lives in a realm unbounded by mental constructs, pursuing and finding mastery in the ways of sculpture, painting, writing. Leopoldo Gout recognizes balances and relationships across disciplines, allowing him to circle back and sharpen the skills that gave him creative freedom to move beyond them. And with all of his creation, and we felt it in the green room in our brief conversation with him, beneath all of his creation and accomplishment, there are steady overtones of deep joy and wonder. So Rupert and Amy, thank you. How perfect to end our summer in our Spanish Harlem speaker series with this son of Mexico, this singer of tales, an artist who soars beyond borders, boundaries, using the intellect and the imagination, Leopoldo Gout.
Thank you. I really, this is probably the most beautiful introduction that I've ever had, even more than my own wedding. So I feel so honored to be here. I love the faces. I love the principles of your school, and I already am in love with you guys. So, if you like anything I say, please call me back because this is very special to me. Muchas gracias a todos. We all are living in this insane world and full of, you know, diversity and madness and I call it for me it's the beauty of this world that pisses off the people that don't agree with who we are and what we stand for, which is what Ivan said very eloquently that he captured in the book. And by the way, Ivan, there's 3 books. So make sure I get an email with your address so that I send a bunch of them to the school. It'll be my honor for the school to, if you guys have a library. These days some schools don't even have a library, but I'm happy to donate some of my books to the school. And with that said, I wanted to to talk very briefly because I love questions and it's my favorite thing in the world. But I'll give you like a little synopsis of things that are not said in the internet about me and my process. And it all started in Mexico City, as Ivan said, in a small apartment with my brother, my 2 sisters, and my mom. And my mom gave me this great gift that I think that a little bit of my role in life is to continue that tradition. Unfortunately, my mom passed last year, but she gave me this fire that in the belief that I could change my own stars, and that gave me kind of like a weird engine because I was, we didn't have a lot of money in Mexico City, but we had a lot of culture. We had books and we had things that you guys already have, and you guys have in the school, and I can smell it and feel it from the brief interactions I had with some of your colleagues, your peers in the green room, and I really feel that you guys already have such an advantage in this world because you're all here in a weird Zoom class, and you're taking your time to listen and to exchange ideas, and for me that's already a huge part of everything that I believe is to have that curiosity. So we were that was like the gift that I got from growing up in Mexico City and always looking in magazines and in books and in radio shows and in the conversations that the friends of my mom would have, that the world was exciting and full of beauty and full of power, and I was hungry for it. So from a very early age, I wanted to go out and kind of eat the world, and I was very lucky that I got a scholarship to study in London, art, and in all of these years, for me, it has been, even though that it seems that I do a lot of different things, whether it's the books or the films or the art, but I see it as a big one body of work. My life has always been about connecting with different mediums through the process of being curious. So I wanted to tell you guys a very kind of a secret because when I was your age, I was heavily dyslexic. I couldn't read, I couldn't focus, I couldn't write. I was always writing stories and doing drawings. And in fact, in one of the images that if later it's easy, I'll show you some things. But I found my report card, and back then, I wish I had Ivan and the people of your school as teachers, because back then it was very dogmatic in Mexico. So my mom left me a few of my report cards, and one of them, I want to read it to you guys, but it says, "I'm so sorry to say that Polo, I mean, in Mexico, Leopoldos are called Polos, and you guys can call me whatever you want. I'm happy with Polo, Leopoldo, or whatever. Has not been putting all of his efforts into his work. He wastes a great deal of time just drawing pictures and writing his stories on his desk. And instead of studying the program, he's just he just leaves papers on the floor, drawings everywhere, stories everywhere, and this is not going to be great for his advantage. I mean, I'm kind of translating in the bad way, but it was very funny because that teacher was complaining a lot about me, and I remember my mom reading it, and she was like, she was like, and what's wrong with him being creative? He's just so he by doing that, by having one person that really believed me, my mom also infected. There was one teacher called Miss Rocio that she realized that I had a lot of things to offer, but it was not channelized in the right way. And that opened doors for me to be able to express myself with other teachers. And that kind of saved me. So you always have to find that one person that kind of understands you. And then what's, I want to give you guys the DNA of how to, in my opinion, how to make it as an artist or as a storyteller, or as a poet, or as a dancer, or as a cook, or or whatever you do. I call them my three pillars. And I like to tell you this story because after all of the years that I've had making art and doing films and stuff, I kind of synthesize how I was able to 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 build the body of work that I have, because it doesn't matter if it's painting or movies or whatever you want to do. If you follow these little pillars that I created for myself, I think it can help you a little bit. And I feel that it will be very useful for you guys to kind of find your own pillars. These are my pillars, and everybody has a different way to create and to fight what people call it, writer's block or artistic block or confusion or simply that you want to do many things but you don't know how to start them. So the pillars are simple. They're the first of them, I call it the curiosity. And as I said before, you guys already have it because you're here and you're in that wonderful school. So I think that the curiosity is the thing that makes you want to look to your left and to your right, forwards and backwards. And the curiosity can be literally you're in the subway and it starts with just looking at people or going online or looking at your neighbors or asking your grandmother or your father about their town or where they come from. The curiosity is something that I believe that you guys all have. I can see it in your faces. I'm super excited and humbled to talk to you all, and I can feel that you already have that wonderful thing, and I think that was integrated in the elemental ideas of your school, which is great. And the curiosity, the purpose of having the curiosity is what I say is the second pillar, is that it helps you find your fire. So your fire, what I call the fire, is that thing that you find that you can change 20 times. I've done it in painting, in sculpture, in books, and in movies. And the fire is once the curiosity, through the curiosity, you find like things that you love. Like I spoke with a dancer, with a poet, and everybody will find their own little fire and build upon it. Through the curiosity, you build your fire. But the most important part of the third pillar of this little trick to fight writer's block is to lose the fear of failing. And that is one of the most important parts of my pillars, because when you stop fearing that you're going to screw up, because you will screw up, when you realize it, that a lot of the paintings that I do and the drafts of the books that I've made are going to be total waste of energy, and sometimes you're frustrated and time, and you go into a rabbit hole on your curiosity, and it ends up in a dead end. The most important thing is to remember that everyone from Picasso to Frida Kahlo, we all have had that kind of fear of, holy carambas, I am completely at loss, and everything I've done in the past 3 weeks is a total waste. Or if you're like one of your colleagues told me like she was battling to be able to perform a poem in front of people because you have this fear of failure. And 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 I love to tell people like failure is a weapon. It's not, you know, failure is a thing that I use it as a weapon because it happens. I've done terrible movies that I needed to do at the time because I needed to put food in front of my kids and my wife, and it's something that you never, it's it just never goes away. And any actor or any filmmaker or any writer will tell you, you know, it happens. So so, and it's not something that you can master that will magically go away. That fear will always happen. I mean, I guarantee you that with the beautiful, powerful speech that Michelle Obama said, and that all of, you know, all of these people have been saying in the past week, I'm sure that 2 days before she was like, oh my God, am I going to screw this up or I'm going to help? This is so important for the election, for everything that we represent, for everything that we want to say. And she did a beautiful thing, but you can feel in the words. I mean, I downloaded her speech just to read it again, apart from listening to her, because I could feel how much pain and fear and then also love and power was imprinted into that thing. And that's, those are the three tiers. It's like the curiosity will help you find your fire, and the battle with fear will help you go again and find the curiosity. So it's kind of like a cycle that if you continually use it, it will help you battle all of those things of um of writer's block or confusion or stuff, because sometimes you're trying something and it doesn't work, so you go back to your curiosity. And what's amazing of the world that we live in is that literally in your phone or in your friend's phone or in a computer or in a magazine shop or whatever you're doing, there's endless resources of things that you can do. And sometimes it's very important to do what I call it the zone, which is that you just are a sponge and you open yourself when you're instead of trying so hard to go in one direction and push yourself through it. Sometimes it's very like recently, for example, I've been going back to one of my biggest passions as an artist, which is cave painting. Cave paintings, the first paintings, you know, 30, 40,000 years ago, and I've been trying to go in Mexico and in other places in Europe to see them in person, because I believe that art has never been, you know, I know that in art history, and maybe your teachers will hate me for this, but art, to me, art has never been a linear experience. Visual art has been a cycle. In my opinion, some of the ideas that cave paintings were expressed inside of those caves are as modern and as relevant as anything that I've seen in cinema, for example, or in Picasso, or in modern artists, or in conceptual artists. They were masters. And when you realize that inside of one cave, sometimes you have an artist expressing one thing, and then another artist in the other side of the cave painting, and then that ocean of time, it's longer than between us and the Egyptians. That's how crazy this time is. That's how amazing art is. That I believe that the things that they were trying to express in those caves are very similar to the things that I'm trying to express in my art, or that very contemporary artists like, you know, Joseph Beuys, who's a conceptual artist, who's very modern, or even newer artists like Tom Friedman, artists that I admire, that use anything to make art, have expressed. So that cycle that connects you to this incredible tradition that you realize that all started with a bunch of people that looked like you guys and me, sitting down around a fire and telling a story. And to me, that when you realize that, it gets so exciting, because everything that happened between that moment where that cave painter realized that it was he or her hand, because I have a theory there was much more women artists back then than society has given credit, and put their hands on the wall and then blew the pigments and all of the way that they made art, and they left that mark, connects us as humans in a beautiful and powerful way. So my life has been a journey to go back to that cave painting, to go back to annoying my teacher, of doing my doodles and writing my stories. It really truly connects us all in a very visceral way. And I don't know how I'm in time because I'm very interested in the questions, but you please, Catherine, tell me if we should move into the questions, or should I tell more stories about my process and how I got here.
We have plenty of time. So if you want to speak a little bit longer, we can move into questions in 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
Okay.
So so my again, the once the process for me to do those pillars, to create a synthesis on how I work, it was a result of my book tour. I never thought about these things. I was just working. One thing led me to another. I started studying sculpture in London with a full scholarship that I won. Thousands of Mexicans applied. I got really lucky. I don't believe that I was a better artist than the kids that didn't get it. I was just lucky. My mom, because I didn't have a very sophisticated portfolio, but back then there was an interview, and in the interview I was good at it, and I got accepted to this scholarship, and it changed my life. And then in the film started, I'll tell this little story because this is another thing that is very important for you guys, which is never forget that art is a process of even the most alone writers and painters that sign their work as this is so and so. That's a lie. It's a collective. Everything we all do, all artists need have a team of people, whether it's other artists that they're borrowing ideas from, or their husbands, wives, or companions, whatever they are in the LGBTQ community, like whoever you are. Never be shy of asking for help in your process. So anyone that tells you differently is lying, because all the great writers, it was a very 18th century thing to sign their books. But if you really go into history of writers or poets or artists, they all had, Jackson Pollock would not be Jackson Pollock without Lee Krasner. Even as good of an artist as he was, if not better. I mean, there's paintings of Lee Krasner that I love more than Jackson Pollock. There is always been someone that exchange ideas that really helps the person form their stuff. In the idea of the lonely artist working and creating and making it by themselves, it's a lie. It's a in my opinion, it's 18th century, colonialist ideas that doesn't represent reality. You can ask me of any artist, and I can find who it was that it was truly exchanging that idea. So it's really important to know that how to collaborate. And the good news to me was that I had a brother, so I was doing art in my studio, and I was finishing art school, and I had a little gallery show. It was really exciting, and one of a guy bought a painting from me who happened to be a kind of a well-known singer-songwriter, who asked me, this is years and years ago, I'm really old, so it's probably 200 years ago, and he asked me to do what it was then music videos, which I don't even know if you guys follow music videos or even know what that is anymore, because back then in the 2000s there was a big industry of music videos, and you could get paid to do those things. And he asked me, he loved that my art was full of little stories, and he said, could you make one with my music? And my younger brother was doing film in Mexico, so I called him and said, hey, why don't we do this together? I don't know how to do this thing. And he was very, very focused on that. And he came, and that started my film career. And without that kind of openness, maybe I would have tried to do it by myself, and I would have failed. So never, ever, one of the biggest and most important things of my career is to know that you need help. For the Genius books, for example, I had a scientist that I credit on the book, and And obviously, English is my second language. So Keith Thomas is an incredible writer who helped me tremendously over the book, and I credit him as well. And I'm not afraid of asking for help in any of the endeavors that I do, because I also know my limitations. Even though that you always feel like you can always vanquish your limitations and grow, you still need people to grow and help to grow. Whether it's and that openness have helped me in so many other ways that you can possibly imagine. With that said, I think that I would love to hear questions and move into that part.
Great. Thank you so much. We have some wonderful questions prepared for you. And our first one is from Yuritsi Flores.
Hi, good morning.
Wow, look at that wall. I love that.
Thank you. I saw in your
Yuritsi is an amazing artist, by the way.
I can feel it.
I saw in your bio that you believe that the arts can be a powerful drive of social change. I myself am really into the visual arts. One piece that I think has made a social change was the Black Lives Matter fist. And my question for you is, what is one piece that you think has made a social change?
That's an incredible question, and I love you. I think that, well, that's many. Like, obviously the one that a lot of visual artists go to in Mexico is the muralist, because the muralists told us not only about social change in Mexico, but I grew up going to those big halls in Mexico City where Diego Rivera, Siqueiros, and Orozco made these huge paintings that would tell stories of the working class, stories about the prehistory. And it was basically telling us, we are Mexicans, you are part of this tradition, and you are part of us, of the forces of change. And their work was so powerful that in America, for example, when I think it was Rivera, but I think all of them had this experience. Nelson Rockefeller from the Rockefeller family flew him to Chicago to do a mural, or to Detroit. I can't remember right now, but because I hate, like, I'm dyslexic and numbers and names kind of are fussy. But one of the mural paintings that he was done, commissioned by the car industry, was destroyed because the social realism that he portrayed in that image. But the other thing that I loved about them is that just until now, the Whitney Museum was kind enough to look back into the history of American modern art and accept something that Mexicans knew for a long time, which was that Rivera and Orozco and Siqueiros were hired by the U.S. government to teach art during a very powerful moment just after the big depression, where the artist programs was enhanced, and they were really trying to kind of inject new energy into America by all means necessary, building roads and doing all sorts of things. But they also put the government a lot of money in art. And Rivera and Siqueiros and Orozco gave these crazy, super modern classes where they would teach some of the American painters like Jackson Pollock and Philip Guston to use concrete instead of canvases, and use machines to throw paint on a wall. And it was incredible because it was so modern. And and then, years later, because they all started as muralists, and then years later, Jackson Pollock with the drip paintings and Philip Guston with abstract expressionists, and they really created the power of American art in the world. Those painters that were taught by Mexicans. And it's a little story that, for me as a Mexican artist, super interesting, how free and crazy and amazing these people were, and that they taught, some of the biggest artists that this country has ever produced. And it's amazing that until now, 2019, when the show was in the Whitney, it was revealed that the truth. So it's sorry. So I'm the I was formed as a kid looking at those paintings of social change and learning from those masters uh, that that really I realized that how much impact um, artists can have in not only in society but in the culture. Is that a I think that
Perfect.
that's
Perfect. Wow.
That was great. Thank you so much. Our next question is from Sitlali, who you met in the green room this morning.
hola.
My question for you is, how did your parents react when you told them you wanted to pursue the career you have today?
Well, fortunately, my mom was a hippie, very modern, very progressive woman. Um, that she knew that I had no choice. So to me, it was a matter that there is no, I couldn't connect with anything in school except for history of art. So from very early on, since I was like, you know, maybe 5 or 6, I started very seriously drawing, and I wasn't that good. I mean, I never won the competitions. I have friends that they were, they're still my friends from grade school, that they were like the kid in school that draws better, or the the other kid that writes better. I was never the rock star artist in school, but that's all I loved. So all my work has been, you know, I'm very honest about it. I've always had to work really hard to make my stuff. And because I'm dyslexic, writing has been the hardest. Like the publishing of my first novel took me a year, and it was painful. I mean, I have no choice but to express myself, but it's really difficult. And to the credit of my mother, she was always supportive in my path, and she never doubted it. She said, like, I don't know if she knew that if I didn't do art, I probably would go mad. So she's like, it's better if he does that and doesn't end up in the street doing something bad. But I have I've had friends that their parents are very anxious about not having a career, and it's and I've been called many times by kids who are you know depressed because their family don't understand the artistic process, and it's really hard. It's there's no easy answers. It's just you know put your head into the work, and because it is hard, and some parents don't understand it. And in the life of an artist, you always find people that don't understand you, like my teacher who wrote that report card. So there's always going to be someone that hates your work, even if they're your friends, or they don't connect with your work, and it's so painful. I can't, most artists that say, "Oh, I don't care about critics." It's not true. Like, we all care. When you do something and it gets criticized, whether it's a book or a painting or a movie, it's really painful, and it's just part of the price. On the other hand, you make art, so that means you're emanating energy. You're doing great things. So there is a family out there for you that will love that, because you know most people are sponges of that energy. That's why artists always have, interesting lives, because you have that, you're emanating that love and that passion. And a lot of people want a little piece of that. Some people, they have 9 to 5 jobs, they hate their jobs, they can't escape their jobs, they're doing it for forever, and they see your passion, and they want some of that. So it's a process that you have to, that is part of the price of being an artist, part of the pain and part of the glory. Um, Next question.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Our next question is from Zoshiket Sali.
Hi.
Good morning. You are a filmmaker, writer, and author. What is your favorite job out of 3 of them?
I think talking to you. I think that communicating with people as smart as you and telling them a story, whether it's through a painting or I don't see them as different jobs. I'm telling stories in my head and through the medium of my work. In terms of the art, for example, the difference is that because you're in your studio, my process is always about reacting to the mechanism of drawing. So I'm drawing something that is from my memory, from smells, from images. I use a lot my a technique that I've been also perfecting for years. That I'll tell you a little bit about it. But everybody has a different technique to access their art form, whether it's writing or dancing or painting or cooking. My technique is that I like to like in your meditation class, I go inside and I start to remember things, and I love my process that I look at. I try to remember a very small thing. For example, my grandmother's door had a very big iron grip. I mean, big in my memory, probably small, but back then I was little, so it looked big. And it was a rusty black door. I haven't been to that house in probably 30 years. I mean, it's incredible that what you can do with memory. Because what I did, instead of trying to remember everything about my grandmother, she passed away 20 years ago or more, is that I go back to that, just the door, because I remember looking through the door to see who was going to open it when we would go Sundays to visit, and they would cook this delicious food in Mexico, and cousins would come, and it was like a really wonderful thing. She wasn't my mother's mother, was my dad, from my dad's family. They were divorced, but I would go on Sundays to see my dad and my grandmother. And so what I do is that I started to remember the smell of that door, and then look at the little details and the rust. And after a few months, now you start to open the door and look left and look right, and that is a process that I use in my work because it really takes you deep into your memory. And memory is like a muscle, like going to the gym. The more you do it, the more you get it, and the more you practice it. In my case, everybody's brain is different, but the more I practice it, the more I can get into it. And right now, I have these crazy, amazing moments where for example, my theater teacher in second grade, I remember the scent of her car because she would drive me to home after I was writing and directing a little play when I was a kid, and she would give me like a lift home because we would do this after school. And so accessing that is a process that I use in the visual art. But then in the movies, I use it when I'm writing a script. But they're kind of two different parts of channeling the story. So that's why I really feel that when I start, it all comes back from the same kind of zony, energy field that I go to. And then from that energy field, as I'm investigating and thinking and reading and researching and going back into my memory, that's when the work starts. So the fact that it ends up in a movie or in a book or in painting, it's part of a process. But it's not that I had a favorite. I could say that drawing is more easy to me than writing, for sure. And with movies, you need a lot of people to make them. Even the smallest movie needs a bunch of people. So the immediacy of visual art has always been easier for me. But also, writing a book, what I love about it is that it has a huge world that is encapsulated in just words, and then those words are like sculpture. And when it's amazing to get it right. So I keep changing my mind when I'm writing the book. Is like, there's moments where the most I hate is writing, and then suddenly, like when the book is going in a good place, oh my god, writing is the best thing in the world. And then drawing is the best thing in the world. So it depends on like where I am at the moment. So the question keeps changing. The answer of your question, it keeps changing depending on on what I'm doing at the moment.
And I do want to say that wonderful book that I'm reading, it has both beautiful language and also beautiful images drawn by Leopoldo. So I look forward to you guys reading the books and we can talk about them. But beautiful art in those books and beautiful language.
Thank you.
Our next question is from another wonderful artist, actually, Leslie Martinez.
Nice.
Hi.
Hello.
You have produced many successful
Damn,
movies,
you ugly.
one of those being Molly's Game. In your biography, it said that you worked on this book from book to screen. My question for you is, what were some challenges doing this? Were there some things you had to change or do differently for the movie than they were in the book?
In Molly's Game? Are you talking just about Molly's Game?
Yes.
Yeah? So Molly's Game is first of all, I love your question and I love your name and you're beautiful. The Molly's Game was an incredible process, and it kind of symbolizes exactly what I was trying to tell you. I thought, the curiosity. So I was in a cafe with my best friend Alejandro, who's also from Mexico. And when we're together, he's a chef and he's really loud and tall, very Mexican, from Oaxaca in Cuernavaca. And when we're together, it's like we're very loud. And back then, I was still in New York. Molly, the real Molly, was running an illegal venture, an illegal poker game filled with celebrities and kind of stars and really rich people. And it was a world that I don't like and I don't care of. I've never gambled. I never liked that world. But I was impressed. She came to see us, and maybe she thought that we were rich Mexicans, which we're not. I mean, my friend is a chef and I'm an artist. I mean, I'm doing well, but it's not, I never grew up with money, and money is not like my focus in life. So, you know, when I make good money, I usually give it away to charities and stuff. So I'm not, my focus in life has never been money. But when she started to talk to us, I just got really curious, and she, you know, she sent me an email because I was publishing a book, and she was also curious about me, and I told her, hey, come to meet me. I'm here with my wife. She's in the studio. Let's have a meeting, because she, in our conversation, she was definitely intelligent, and it was just my curiosity. And she eventually told me her story, but she was still running an illegal enterprise. And I told her, you should get out of this and I can help you make a book, and then maybe we can make a movie. So that's why I'm telling you this story, because it's not just that I got a book and then I turned it into a movie. I made the book. I helped her put together the book, and then together, Molly and I went out and started meeting people in Hollywood where we transformed it into a movie. So we were very involved, and it was her life. And my job was at that time as a producer to do what I promised her. When she finally said she would write the book, was because she got arrested. The mob beat her up. So that's all in the movie, and it's a true story. She was really scared for her life, and she owed a lot of money to the government. She didn't do something wrong, like she didn't do anything evil, but it's illegal to have a poker game where you take a rake, which means you take money from the pot. You can play poker and lose money with your friends, but you can't organize a poker game and take money as a commission. That's illegal. So, and she didn't know. She was a young girl, and she kind of knew, but people were doing those games, so she thought, who cares? But her game started to get bigger and bigger, filled of celebrities, and it derailed because the mob, you know, in New York heard about this game. She was making a ton of money, and they did what I told her would happen. They got in, and they beat her up, and they wanted to own her and her game and take a piece of it. So very lucky for her, they all got arrested like a week later after they threatened her life. and beat her up, and they all got arrested for a different charge. But that was part. But she ended up, because she was in their phone calls and in their like in the movie, she was on the phones. They arrested her as well, and that like took them into the game, and she went to jail for a couple of nights, and it was a crazy story. So I was very involved in just helping a friend morally and support her, and then the book helped her pay a little bit of her bills, and then we made the movie. So to answer your specific question, the movie was organized by an incredible writer that we found through my lawyer. Again, my lawyers not necessarily are agents that introduce you to people, but being Mexican, I told him, I don't care if that's not what you do. I know he's your neighbor, and I'm Mexican, and we do favors to each other. So you have to do it, or I'll fire you. So I was just totally crazy the way I produced that film, and I used, in Mexico, it's more of a, your friends and your family help each other to make your business, and that has been my attitude in Hollywood. And some people hate me for that, and they think I'm crazy, and some people like it. So, I'm not going to change by now. I'm too old, but it was that experience that it was very personal. And most of my movies have started like that, from a very special personal journey, whether they turn good or bad. Because some of them, I've done a couple of very bad movies, and it's been through the process of making them. But in the specific story of Molly, once we made it, we were very happy because Molly, said to me, promised me that she needed the money. She had to do the movie. But she said to me, promise me that you'll protect that we're going to tell my story, and it's going to be great because I have to live with it for the rest of my life. So my job was to be kind of like a little bit of a thug for her. So I got a lot of screams from Hollywood when they wanted to change certain things she didn't want to change, or reveal names that she didn't want to reveal. So that movie is very personal, and again, it's one of my favorite experiences because I was very connected to the whole process of making. Next.
We want to be mindful of your time. Do you have time for 2 more questions? Is that okay?
I have time for 5 more questions.
All right, we'll go to Vanessa next, who has a great question. She's an aspiring writer.
Excellent. Hola.
Hi. I'm
Hello.
also working on writing a book, and sometimes I have a difficult time knowing where to start. And my question for you is, how did you get your inspiration to start your book and keep going?
That's an excellent question, Vanessa, and it's yes, it's the most daunting thing is the white page at the beginning of a project, and that's why I told you at the beginning of the lecture my method, which is the 3 pillars, and for me, what you should do, if you want to use one of my techniques, everybody will discover their own technique, but what I would do if I was just trying to find a wall, whether it's in school or at home, or even inside of a sketchbook, and put lines of every idea that you want to do, everything, like almost like a mood board. You know mood boards. Mood boards kind of combine not just writing but images and videos and text and photographs and Instagram images and recipes of your mother or your grandmother or your aunt, and anything that inspires you, that makes you happy, and put them all in either a sketchbook if you don't have the wall, or in a wall if you can have some space in your room, or in a classroom. But find a place where you can really, that is private, semi-private, or that you can control it, and put up all of the ideas that you have, everything you have. And then it's almost like a tree. And then one day when you're filled up, when you have enough, you grab one of the branches and say, okay, I'm going to start here. And if that doesn't work, you go to another branch and you go to. So it will help you a lot to explore different elements and branches of your mood board. And then suddenly you'll be writing, and suddenly you'll be, forget about that it's a book at the beginning. Don't think about, oh, I have to write a book and it has to be 250 pages and it has to be like this. And forget about that. Start by all of the different things that you want to say, writing ideas, paragraphs. You know, you can write anything about anything, which is amazing. I mean, there's incredible short stories about tears in a crocodile. There's incredible things about plastic in the ocean. There's incredible things about you know, people that you love or people that you hate. And then you find your characters. I always, this is my process. Through the drawings and the images and the stuff, you find a character. Ingenious, when I started, was a little bit because my son was maybe 6 years old or 7 years old, and we were watching together the Star Wars and the Marvel movies, and he was very upset that that New York gets killed in all of the Marvel movies. He was like, why do they have to kill New York? And that took me into research of like, oh yeah, how come like superheroes have to be healing all the time and or protecting death all the time? And it was, I said, what if I find heroes that think, and what if I find heroes that come from the place that I come from, Mexico, and or African American or Africa. And so my experience with Genius was like the question of like one thing, which was superheroes, that took me into finding these kids, these real kids who are geniuses from, you know, unprivileged places in the world, like, you know, Sierra Leone. I found a kid that with trash he made a battery and lit his house, and then brought the internet to his little town. And I'm talking about a shoeless kid in Africa that through trash he changed his stars. So I started to find all of these kids, and then I was so excited. I spoke with a few of them, and that research took me. And suddenly, a year later, I had a book. So instead of trying to do a book, try to find your characters, try to find your stories through the mood board. And then one day, like if you really commit to it, you'll find, oh, that's the book that I want to write. It's a little reverse engineering your process. I hope that answers your question.
That's great advice. Thank you. We're going to go to Tracy next.
Hey, Tracy.
Hi, good morning. So in your bio, I read that you were born in Mexico City and you went to school in London, and now you have a studio in New York. So my question for you is, what is your favorite place to be that you've been to, and why?
Wow. Well, I miss Mexico for certain things, but New York has become my home. I lived in Barcelona. I lived in London. I lived in Germany for a bit. One of my favorite cities in places in the world is Cambodia. I did a project in Cambodia, but my favorite places where my kids are. So they are New Yorkers. My daughter, there was sometimes a couple of years ago, I went to do a TV show, and the network asked me if I would move to LA, and I said, oh yeah, I'll do. And she was no way, because she got into the School of American Ballet, and she was very committed to that. And she told me, I think LA Ballet is not cool. You know, she was very young, like she was back then was like she was 11, but she was very committed to her ballet. And so to me, it's more about where my kids are and where they're happy. If they would be happy in Minnesota, I would move to Minnesota. To me, it's about that, about them, for my happiness. But I've loved everywhere that I've lived. I mean, London, it's one of my favorite cities in the world. I grew up as an artist there. I met incredible people. I learned so much. I went to all the museums 1,000 times. I had in my hands, you know, drawings from Leonardo da Vinci, because in the museums there, it's public, so you can, as an artist, you can go there and ask for private viewings with art, which is crazy that you can do that. And I was all the time asking for having just in front of me incredible art. So every city has given me so much. It's very hard to answer that, but right now, without a doubt, wherever my kids are happy, I'm happiest.
Our next question is from Troy Allen. I think Troy will probably be our last one of the morning, if that's okay.
Hold it. Well, I want Crystal. Let Crystal be the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, I could do a few more. I'm cool.
Okay, let's do Troy and then we'll go to Crystal. Is that okay?
Whatever you want. I'm here for as long as you guys want to.
All right, Troy, you're up. Crystal, you'll be next.
Okay. So good morning, and I was excited to learn that you produced the movie Middle School Worst Years in My Life. And my question was, how hard is it? What was the hardest challenge of making a movie with kid actors?
Excellent question. Well, I was surprised. I was very lucky. First of all, that book, I also helped develop that book because the book is very loosely based on me as a kid. If you go back to the book, the story is called Leonardo, but it was really at the beginning of the draft it was Leopoldo. I was working for Mr. Patterson. I helped him do a lot of books and ideas and movies, and I told him the story of my kid. I had when I was a kid, I had imaginary friends, and I was always drawing and painting and getting into trouble in school because I had this crazy imagination, and I would like talk to myself, and I was a little bit of a weirdo, and I told the story to Patterson, and he created that series, and that's why one of the characters is called Leo. So then he very graciously let me adapt the book, and I hired the writers and the directors, and then when it goes to the kids, to me it's easy if you cast it well, because making a movie is a lot to do with trusting your actors. And we did a casting in Atlanta, and we saw hundreds of kids, but I was so impressed with the kids we cast. The little girl, Alexa, and they're all, by the way, when I cast them, they were all unknown, and now all they're pretty decent stars, like Isabella Merced, used to be Isabella Monet. You know, she had never done a movie before. When I cast her in Atlanta, she was living in Atlanta with her mom, and we recognized. I always treat kids like I treat adults. I don't do anything different, but I do connect with the parents because I'm a parent. So I wanted the parents to feel very safe, and that I was a friend, and it wasn't, these are all children who are professionals. So the parents are almost like, or managers are, you're working with both the children and the parents. And I made, as a producer, I made it very clear that we were very welcoming to the parents and they could talk to me. They could call me in my hotel room. They could come to me. We had drinks together. I made them feel very safe. And the parents, and I did it on purpose because I'm a parent, so that's how I would like to be treated if my girl was a professional actor. So the parents got relaxed and trusted, and that obviously spread to the kids, who were then more relaxed and trusting in me. And we became friends. We still see each other. I think that trust is helped me a lot in the process of making that movie. So to me, children actors are no different than adult actors. In fact, some adult actors are more difficult than children actors. When you find a really good actor who's a child actor, I don't see the difference. They're just good actors. They're professional. They're going to know their lines. They're going to be in time. And yes, we have sometimes disagreements, or you have to talk through things through them. But my experience has been amazing. I've had worse time with big celebrities than with children. So, I hope that answers your question.
All right, I think it did. We'll go to Crystal for our last question.
Hello and good morning. You have already expanded your work into so many different genres. Is there a genre you have not yet explored that you would like to try? And yes, next, and why? Yeah.
Wonderful, Crystal.
It's a wonderful question, but are you talking about movies, books, or all of them?
I'm talking about genres.
Writing genres, Crystal?
movie
for
genres.
Movie.
movies. Well, they're connected. I mean, I guess like writing is. I have written period pieces that I really want to do. So I love historical fiction, and I'm publishing a book about that later this year. It's not proper for kids. It has a lot of violence, so I wouldn't recommend it to you guys. But maybe in a few years you can read it. But I love that genre, and I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. I'm a huge nerd. If you read it in Genius, you can see that I like technology and imagination, and so all of the genres I like. And I've written my first novel was horror, so I love genre, and I think some great genres can be elevated into social expressions, like the movie Get Out. It's a genre movie, but it's also an amazing movie about the feelings of African American people in this country, and the first zombie movie had the same issue subject. So I love when genre has a big social connection or change or or experience. So definitely I want to try all the genres. There's not one that I would like more than the others, because I really love them as a platform or as a trampoline or as a spark to talk about social changes, to talk about people, to talk about identity, to talk about gender, to talk about race, to talk about a lot of things that we all need to talk about in culture, and I think that some movies that our genre has really been inspiring. I do think that the one thing that I would like to do, that I do have a book about it, is that I feel that in sci-fi, for example, there should be more positivity. I think a lot of sci-fi is dystopian, which is dark and brooding. And I feel like I was very influenced by a futurist friend of mine that I'm publishing a book about him called Brian David Johnson. And he projects future in 5, 10, 20 years professionally for a lot of big companies and even the military. And he has told me that it's our job as storytellers to try to also do positive stories, because if you only do negative things, you could project a negative future, and humanity could end up in a negative future. So I want to find stories in science fiction that project a positive future. Like, for example, E.T. E.T. is a wonderful movie that was science fiction in genre, but was very positive about a little creature that, according to Steven Spielberg, he was a plant who just connected with a human in a beautiful way, and from its heart to the Elliot, the main kid's heart. So that is a positive utopian kind of sci-fi genre that I'm very interested in that, and I think Genius has a little bit of that. So I hope that answers your question.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap up the morning with another brief meditation just to take in all that you've shared with us. And then Ivan will offer some final remarks to end the morning. So I'm gonna send it back to Andrea Gomez to lead us in meditation.
1, 2, 3. One, two, three.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Wow. What a wonderful, wonderful morning, and what a beautiful way to finish up our summer together with the speaker series. What you said this morning, I was scribbling down furiously because I don't want to forget all the wonderful things you said, but also how you said them. And if I lose my notebook, other people will remember. And if they don't remember, we like to say here this summer, at least, that we'll certainly remember how you made us feel. And we really felt embraced by your spirit and your intellect and your wonderful craftsmanship that underneath all of what you've done, and is an enormous and profound intellect and discipline that seems like it's generated from a profound compassion for humanity. So I will take the 3 pillars and use them for my own purposes. I was telling the students that before we went on that I have sleepless nights preparing to introduce people like you, and in particular, I was daunted by introducing you because I had the privilege through all the other speakers of introducing people who had mastery of a certain way, whether it was business but you have mastered sculpture and visual arts and filmmaking and producing, and also you've mastered the ability to tell stories to people like us in such a profound and moving way. One other thing that I'm taking with me out of many that I'll mention now in my final acknowledgments is you talked about the cave paintings, how people put their hands in blue pigment around them to leave the impressions. And you said that these cave paintings connect us as humans in a very beautiful way. And if I say that I met you and people said, well, what does he do? I would say he connects humans in a very beautiful way through a number of mediums. But if I had to say it finally, I'd say he's just a benevolent creator through language, through sound, through light. But what a gift. I'm always indebted to Rupert and Amy, but now I'm shackled to them for life, for you bringing such a wonderful spirit and such wisdom to us, and great joy as well. Do you have any final remarks for us before we leave?
Yeah, I love the spirit of you and your school. I'm moved beyond my wildest dream of the way you talk, and I feel a privilege that I experienced the gorgeous, fantastic faces of all of the students that listened and asked me questions and stuff. And you can always reach out if other students have more questions. You can send them to me, and if I can, I'll answer anything you guys want. Through Instagram, you can DM me, Leopoldo. I'm an open book, and if you get stuck one day and I have the time, I will always help. And like my very good friend, a judge, wonderful judge, told some people in her court, remember to raise up and go and make magnificent things. And I want all of your students to take the beauty of what you're giving them, which is inspiration, and go out and make magnificent things. And that's what I have to say to them.
Well, what a pleasure, and have a beautiful day. And we hope to see you live once this cloud lifts, but you brought a lot of sunlight to us today in the meantime. Leopoldo 100%. Gout, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I love you all. Take care.
Thank you so much.
We love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Well, a lot to go through. You guys were fantastic again. Ms. Warren is offline. She's doing some other work, but 7th grade, you should thank her, and I will thank you on her behalf, because you were just fantastic in the green room and in your questions. And at some point with your teachers, and maybe with us, we'll revisit some of these remarks. But what a perfect way to end the summer. A son of Mexico, a splendid creator, a wonderful humanitarian who's deeply skilled, and just a benevolent and wise creator. Didn't I tell you, Crystal? I mean, our Crystal, our pillar, used the fear of failure, and you used it beautifully. And I'm glad that